Hey everybody, and welcome back to Ready Steady Play, where today we're going to be learning the 2 to 4 player competitive game Chamber of Wonders from Ludus Magnus Studios Light, who've kindly sponsored this How to Play video. The game is designed by Stefano Castelli and Diego Soretti, and it's been made for the Chamber of Wonders Kickstarter campaign, which means that this is a prototype version of the game, and the components are not final. It takes roughly half an hour to play, and it's for ages 14 and up. So join me, won't you, as we take a trip back in time to the early 1800s. The Age of Discovery has just come to a close, and mysterious magical wonders from across the world have made their way into the public market. As a hub of economic activity, many of these artifacts make their way to London, and the capital is gripped in a fever of a new fashion craze, the Chamber of Wonders. Bored nobles, shady merchants, and unscrupulous explorers are selling, buying, and curating the most exciting and intriguing objects for their own displays in the hopes of developing the most impressive collection of wonders. Chamber of Wonders is a game of action selection and set collection. During the course of the game, you'll be sending your agents out to areas on the board where they can take actions. And each area offers its own twist on a popular board game mechanism. The game will end when you run out of agents. Then it's judgment time. You'll earn points for your collection, and the collection with the most points is the winner. So you'll have to curate your collection carefully if you want to win the game. In this setup and rules video, we're going to look at the components, we're going to look at how to set up the game, and how to play the game. As usual, all of the sections in this video are listed in the description below if you want to find something specific. So, without further ado, let's start building our Chamber of Wonders with a look at the components that come in the box. So, here inside the box, we will find one board. Note that in the final version of the game, this will be made of cardboard and not the material that I have here for the prototype. You have a deck of 92 Wonders cards. In the Wonders deck, you'll find 6 different types of Wonders. You'll find 12 Grotesque cards, 12 Precious cards, 20 books, 12 Arcana cards, 18 Monster cards, and 18 Legendary cards. You'll find 5 different area tiles, each reversible, with a different side, and a little building that lives in the area. We've got Westminster, the Bank of England, Hyde Park, Whitechapel, and Baker Street, and the Abbey. We've got 6 contact cards that represent the different folks we're going to meet around London. The game comes with 12 display cabinets, which you will have to assemble, as well as 12 coming soon signs, one for each cabinet. That means there are 3 cabinets per player. We have 3 red agents, 3 blue agents, 3 green agents, as well as 2 grey agents. We've also got 3 different kinds of tokens. We've got pounds in denominations of 3 and 1. Bonus fame tokens, which are worth 3 points at the end of the game. And we've got grotesque tokens, which feature skulls on the back of 2 to 4. So in this section of the video, we'll learn how to set up the game. In this setup section, I'm going to set up a 2-player game, but there are only really 2 differences between setting up a 2-player game, a 3-player game, and a 4-player game, and I'll call them out as we go. The first thing we're going to do is set up the main game area. Put the game board in the center of the table where everyone can reach it. Then we're going to pick 4 of the 5 areas available in the game to use. Each building features 2 sides, and so you can decide which side you want to play with. Each area focuses on a different mechanism, and each side a different variation of that mechanism. You can decide which side you want to use, and then place the area face up in the area spots on the board. You can decide which areas to use, and which side of the board to use, however you wish, either picking your favorites or doing it randomly. There are 4 areas recommended for your first game, so I will set up those areas in this instructional video. In the rulebook, you'll find that each side of an area has a given name, and we'll cover these later at the end of this video. For now, all you need to know that when setting up your first game, it's recommended you start with the Inviting Meal, I Will Dive In side of the Westminster board, the I have £5 for 1, £5 for 2, £5 for 3, sold side of the Bank of England board, the Promotional Sale side of Hyde Park, and the Play Your Game side of the Baker Street board. Now we're going to shuffle the 6 contact cards and place one randomly in each of the 4 contact spaces here on the board. There is no recommended starting setup for the contacts. You can put the remaining 2 back in the box. You won't need them for this game. The last thing we're going to set up for the main game area is the Chamber of Wonders deck. We'll give this a shuffle, make sure it's very well shuffled, and then we'll simply put it in the Chamber of Wonders spot in the middle of the board. And now we're going to set up each player's play area. I'm only going to set up 2 play areas, but you may set up 2, 3, or 4, depending on how many players you're playing with. Each player will receive 3 display cabinets and 3 coming soon markers. You'll put 1 coming soon marker on 1 showcase in each of the display cabinets. Note that these terms are used throughout the game, so it's useful to remember that this is a display cabinet, and it is made up of 3 showcases. It doesn't matter which showcase you cover with the coming soon banner. Remember that each player will get a set of 3 display cabinets. I've put out 6 because I'm playing with 2 players. And now we're going to give each player a set of agent meeples. In a 2-player game, each player will receive 2 meeples. In a game with 3 players, each player will receive 3 meeples. And in a 4-player game, each player will receive 2 meeples. Each player now receives £8. And then each player is going to receive 3 Wonders cards, drawn at random from the top of the Wonders deck. There are just 2 more things to do, and then we're ready to play. We're going to put the tokens on the table where everyone can reach them. So the very last thing to do before we start playing the game is to discard the top card of the Chamber of Wonders deck, face up, to form a discard pile. And with that, we're ready to start playing the game. So let's learn how to play Chamber of Wonders. Now that the game is all set up, we're ready to start acquiring wonders. First, we have to pick a starting player. This is the person who last visited a museum. Or you can choose randomly. Gameplay is carried out in turns in clockwise order from the starting player. Each turn is 2 phases. In the first phase, a player will place one of their agent meeples into one of the areas on the board. Each area on the board has 2 positions for placing meeples. But any number of meeples may be in any position, so long as they are not the same color. In the second phase, players will play cards from their hand to their display cabinets. Play continues in this turn order until everybody has played all of their agent meeples onto the board, which triggers the end of the game. Then everyone will count up the points based on the cards in their display cabinets and any leftover money. But be careful, you'll be penalized for any cards left in your hand. Once all the fame has been calculated, then whoever has the most points is the winner. I've talked about how the game ends when each player has placed all of their agent meeples onto the board. This means that in a 3-player game, there will be 9 turns. In a 4-player game, there will be 8 turns. In a 2-player game, there will also be 8 turns, and this is because the first time the game end would be triggered in a 2-player game, everyone collects their meeples back up and plays another round of the game. So once everybody is done playing out their meeples for a second time, the 2-player game will end, and game end will be carried out in the same way as the 3- and 4-player game. But in order to calculate that final score, we're going to need to understand Wonders cards. Pretty much all of the game is about acquiring the right set of Wonders cards. There are 6 different types of Wonder cards, so let's take a look at them and how they function. You can tell what type of card a Wonder is by the color of the curtain and the symbol in the top center. The red curtain is for the Legendary Wonder. The yellow curtain shows the precious wonder type. The black curtain shows the grotesque wonder type. The green curtain shows monster parts. The blue curtain is for books. And the purple curtain is for Arcana. There are 4 other bits of information on the card. There is a value in pounds up here in the top left corner, a value in fame points up here in the top right, as well as a symbol in the center that shows what kind of wonder it is, and art and a name for the wonder as well here in the center. Each wonder type has a different effect, which takes place during the game or at the end of the game, and we're going to talk about these effects now. Legendary cards are worth 5 fame points at the end of the game. When they're played into a showcase of a display cabinet, you may receive a bonus fame point token worth an additional 3 points. And I say may because if another player plays the same legendary card into a showcase in one of their display cabinets, all copies of that legendary card lose the bonus fame token. So, if multiple copies appear across all players' display cabinets, then nobody gets a bonus token for that legendary. Of course, other distinct legendaries will still have a bonus token applied when played. Precious cards are represented by a crown and a yellow banner, and they're worth 3 points at the end of the game. When played to your display cabinet, you immediately receive £3, which you can use during the game. £3 is also worth 1 point at the end of the game. Grotesque wonders are represented by a skull and a black curtain. They're also worth 4 points at the end of the game. When you play a grotesque to your display cabinet, you take a skull from the skull stack without looking at it and place it onto your wonder. Now that it's there, you can check how many skulls are on the bottom, but keep this information secret from the other players. At the end of the game, every player will reveal the number of skulls they have across all of their display cabinets. Whoever has the highest total will receive 1 bonus fame token. In the event that 2 players tie for skulls, then you will reveal each 1 additional skull token, add it to your totals until the tie is broken. Arcana cards are represented by a flower image here and a purple curtain. Arcana cards are worth 1 point for every different type of wonder card that appears across all of your display cabinets. They count themselves, so this means they're worth anywhere from 1 to 6 points each. So in this example, the Arcana is worth 5 points. The final 2 types we're going to talk about are monsters and books, and the reason I've separated these out from the other 4 types is because these ones can be collected in sets. Later, when we talk about the setting up your chamber phase of a turn, we'll talk about how sets work. However, it should be noted that when you play a set to a showcase in a display cabinet, you must put all of the cards into a single showcase, and cards cannot be added to that set later. So choosing when to play them is an important decision to make. Let's talk about books first. Books are represented by the book symbol here in the top center, as well as a blue curtain. There are 4 different kinds of books available in the Wonders deck. At the end of the game, the books will be worth points based on the number you've collected. 1 book is worth 1 fame point, 2 books are worth 4 fame points, 3 books are worth 9 fame points, and all 4 books is a whopping 16 fame points. Monster parts are represented by a monster image in the top center and are worth 3 points each. It should be noted that on each card here, a different part of the monster has been highlighted, and this represents the type of the monster part. For example, these are legs. This is a torso, and this one back here is a head. As you guessed, to complete a set, you must have 1 of each body type. You can always play a set with fewer types, but when you play a set of monster cards with all 3 types to a single showcase, you will be rewarded with 3 bonus points. So let's talk about in-game scoring. Most of your in-game scoring will come from your display cabinets, and we'll look at those in a moment. However, it should be noted that you will also gain points for any leftover money you have at the end of the game, and lose points for any cards left in your hand. So if we imagine this here to be one player's endgame situation, they're going to score 6 points for their monster parts, 5 points for the Rosetta, 3 points for Rex, 6 points for the Arcana. If they've won the Grotesque, then they're going to score 7 points for this Grotesque, 4 for the card, and 3 bonus points. And finally, they're going to score 4 points for collecting 2 books in a set as well. They're going to score an additional 4 points for having 14 pounds. And then they're going to lose 3 points for the 3 cards left over in their hand. If there's ever a tie for points in the end game, the player who has the most total cards in all 3 of their display cabinets, counting cards in sets, breaks the tie. And in the event there's still a tie, then players share the victory. So now we know what wonders are worth. But we need to know how to assemble the finest chamber of wonders in all of London, so let's look at a turn. Each turn has 2 phases. The first phase is called Send an Agent, in which a player will take one of their agent meeples and assign them to an area on the board. This will allow you to take actions based on the area and the contact cards adjacent to it. Most of the area actions also allow other players to do something as well. The second phase is called Setting up the Chamber of Wonders. In this phase, players will play cards from their hand to the showcases in their display cabinets. Let's look at phase 2 first. In the Setting up of the Chamber of Wonders phase, players can play cards to one of the showcases in one of their display cabinets. This means that in a 2-player game and a 4-player game, where there are 8 turns, you will not be able to make use of all 9 showcases. In a 3-player game, where there are 9 turns, you will be able to use all 9 spaces if you play 1 card every turn. Each player will choose the card that they want to play this turn and put it face down in front of them. Once all players have chosen a card, they'll reveal it and assign it to a free showcase. Note that you cannot play to the showcases with the Coming Soon banners on at this time. If the card you play in this round has an effect such as the Precious card, you may resolve it now. And if you want to play a set of cards, you must put them all out together. Note that once the cards are assigned to a showcase, you cannot add any additional cards to the set. Let's talk about Phase 1, Sending an Agent. In Phase 1, you will send an agent to one of the available areas on the board. A player may send an agent to any area where they do not already have an agent. This means that you may only visit an area once per game, unless you're playing a 2-player game. In the 2-player game, once all agents have been played out, they will all be collected again, so a player may visit a given area twice. When you place an agent in an area, you take 2 actions, a mandatory action and an optional action. The mandatory action is associated with the area where you played the agent, and there is a reminder of its action here on the area board. The optional action is associated with the 2 adjacent contacts to that area. You may choose one contact and carry out the action associated with that contact, and there is a reminder in the golden emblem at the bottom of the card. As the 2 names indicate, the mandatory action is mandatory, and the optional action is optional. Once you've resolved both actions, in any order, move on to Phase 2, Setting up the Chamber of Wonders. At any time during Phase 1 of a turn, you may spend £5 to remove a Coming Soon banner from one of your showcases. You can do this on any player's turn. At this stage in the video, we've covered all the fundamentals you need to execute the game. However, you will need to understand each of the area actions and contact actions. I'm going to spend the rest of this video going through those actions and explaining how they work. I'm first going to cover the 12 area actions, and then I'll cover the 6 contact actions. If you happen to be playing the game at home, you might want to just skip ahead to the actions pertinent to the game you're playing. However, if you are watching this video to see if this game is something that you're interested in, you might want to look through all of the actions and see just what's on offer in the game. It should be noted that each area board has 2 actions associated with it, and they're sort of themed around a mechanism for the area. So I'll explain this as we go through. Each side also has a name associated with it, and I'll let you know those so that you can find them in the rulebook later on. The first area we're going to look at is Westminster, and Westminster's mechanisms are themed around card drafting. The first side of the board here is called Inviting Meal. I will dive in. And there's a little reminder here to show you just what this action does. When a player places an agent in this space to take this action, each player at the table will draw 3 wonder cards from the top of the wonder deck. All players will choose 1 card to add to their hand, and the remaining 2 cards will be passed, 1 to the player on their right, and 1 to the player on their left. Note that in a 2-player game, you'll give both cards to the other player. The other side of the Westminster board is called Take Your Turn and You Won't Get Burned, and the symbol looks like this. When a player activates this side of the Westminster board, all the players at the table will draw 3 cards off the top of the Chamber of Wonders deck. Then, they'll choose 1 to keep and add to their hand, and the other 2 will be passed to the player on their right, who will do the same. Choose 1 to keep and pass the final card to the player on their right. The next area we're going to talk about is the Bank of England. And this area's mechanisms are based around auctions. This side of the Bank of England is called I have £5 for 1, £5 for 2, £5 for 3, sold. When a player places their agent in this area, they'll draw cards equal to the number of players in the game from the top of the wonder deck. That player will place both cards face up on the table where every player can see them. They'll select 1 card and announce a basic offer for this card. For example, I will bid £1. Then, clockwise around the table, each player can raise the offer or pass, and a player that passes will not be able to bid again for this card. Once everybody has passed, the player who made the highest bid claims the card, paying the money they bid to the bank. This process is repeated for each card that was drawn. If a card does not receive any offers at all, then it's placed in the discard pile. The other side of the Bank of England board is called We Bet, and the symbol looks like this. When a player takes this action, they draw a number of cards equal to the number of players. The cards are placed face up where everybody can see them. The player selects 1 card, and all players take their money from the table. They secretly place a certain amount of money into their hand, and then when every player is ready, all amounts are revealed. Whoever bid the most money pays the money to the bank and claims the card for themselves. It is allowed to bid £0. It is possible for there to be a tie that needs to be broken. In this case, the player whose turn it is will choose the winner. This process is repeated for each card, and if a card does not receive any offers, it's placed on the discard pile. The next area we're going to look at is Hyde Park. Hyde Park's mechanisms are all based around selling wonder cards from your hand. This side of Hyde Park is called Banks Do a Business of Gold in These Times, and it is represented by this symbol here. When a player takes this action, all of the players may sell 1 card from their hand to the bank. They put it into the discard pile and receive a number of pounds equal to the value of the card plus 3. So for the Gamera, it would be £5. The player whose turn it is begins this process, and then in clockwise order, everyone has a chance to sell 1 card. This side of Hyde Park is called Promotional Sale. When a player takes this action, they may sell up to 3 cards from their hand to the bank. They can sell anywhere between 1 and 3 cards, and they'll receive the total value in pounds printed on the cards. So for these 2 books and a precious card, they would earn £10. After the active player has done it, every other player at the table in clockwise order may do the same, choosing to sell up to 3 cards. The next area we're going to look at is Baker Street. Baker Street's mechanisms are based around the idea of making an important choice. This side of Baker Street is called Play Your Game. When a player takes this action, they'll draw a number of wonder cards from the top of the deck equal to the number of players. The player takes the cards and puts them face down in front of them without looking at them. They draw the top card, look at it, and decide who to give it to. they must give it to one player at the table, but they can choose to keep it for themselves. Whatever they decide to do with the card, they must repeat the process for each card in the stack. Note that you cannot give 2 cards to the same person, which means that at the end of the process, each player will have received 1 card. The second side of Baker Street is called Seems Like a Fair Trade to Me, and it's represented by this symbol here. When a player takes this action, they choose a wonder card from their hand to discard, and then draw another card from the deck. If a player has no cards in their hand to discard, they may still draw a card from the deck. The next area we're going to look at is Abbey. Abbey's mechanisms are based around players making an exchange. This side of the Abbey is called He Has a Lot of That Money. It's represented by this symbol here. When a player takes this action, all the other players at the table will reveal 1 wonder card from their hand. The player who took the action may purchase that card for the pound value on the card, paying it to the owner. If they choose to do so, they'll take the card from that player. However, if they don't, the card will remain with the owner. This side of the Abbey board is called the usual opportunist, and it's represented by this symbol here. When a player takes this action, the other players at the table must reveal a wonder card from their hand. If the player who took the action wants that card, they may exchange a card from their hand for it, giving it to the owner of the card without revealing it to the table. If the player who took the action doesn't want the card, it remains with the owner. The next area we'll look at is Whitechapel. Whitechapel's mechanisms are based around gambling. This side of the Whitechapel board is called Curiosity Killed the Cat, and it's represented by this symbol here. When a player takes this action, all the other players at the table may first draw a card in clockwise order. Then, the player who took the action may reveal cards from the top of the wonder deck, choosing to stop at any time. So long as they do not reveal 2 cards of the same type, they can keep all the cards they have revealed. However, the minute they reveal 2 cards of the same type, all the cards are discarded and they get nothing. This side of the Whitechapel board is called I Bet on the King Winning. When a player takes this action, they name a type of wonder card, for example, book, and then they draw 2 cards off the top of the wonder deck. Any cards that match the name type are added to the player's hand, and any that do not are discarded. Then, in clockwise turn order, each player has a chance to do the same thing, naming a type and drawing 2 cards. And once everyone's had a chance, the action's over. Now we're going to look at the contact cards. Unlike the area actions, the contacts really only help the player whose turn it is, with the exception of 1. So we remember that when a player takes an area spot, they may, before or after performing the area action, activate a contact. So the first contact we'll look at is Mr. Dreyfuss the banker. When a player chooses to activate this card, they immediately receive £3 from the bank. The next card we'll look at is J.K. Fezzik, the informer. When a player takes this action, they may immediately draw 1 wonder card from the top of the deck. The next card we'll look at is Sir Pebbleton, the Benefactor. When a player takes this action, they may immediately draw 2 wonder cards from the top of the deck. Then, every other player at the table may also draw 1 card from the top of the wonder deck. The next card we'll look at is Captain Wreck, the Fencer. When a player takes this action, they may sell 1 card from their hand, putting it into the discard pile, and receiving in exchange the monetary value in the top left. The next card we'll look at is Butch the Carpenter. When a player takes this action, they may immediately remove one of the Coming Soon banners from one of their showcases for free. And last but not least, Cloris the Seer. When a player takes this action, they may look at the top card of the Wonder deck and then decide whether they want to put it back on top or into the discard pile. So that covers it for Chamber of Wonders. I hope you found this video helpful in understanding how to play the game, and if you're excited about the game, you can find it on Kickstarter when I post the video, or if this is the future, you might be able to find a copy on ludusmagnusstudio.com or at a local board game retailer. If you found the video helpful, please consider leaving a like down below, or leave a comment in the comment section, and I'll try to respond to you if I can. And if you're interested in finding a copy of the game after watching this video, I'll put some helpful links in the description down below. that's it for me for now. Thanks so very much for watching, and I'll see you in the future in another Setup and Rules video. Bye!